If you're using neem oil to control pests on your plants, you're probably using a spray bottle like this, filling it with water and concentrated neem oil, and then just spraying it all over your plants, hoping that it'll actually work. And then you end up doing that time after time after time, but there's so many problems with that method. Since I've started doing it this new way that I'm about to show you, I have had barely any pests on my plants, and it has been a lifesaver. Hey guys, welcome back to Mini Urban Farm, a channel about gardening and homesteading in the suburbs. In today's video, I'm going to show you this way that I have been using neem oil the right way, according to me, that actually works for getting rid of pests on your plants, and it's so much faster and so much easier. So let's get started. First, I'm going to show you the way that I was doing it before and the downsides of that, and then I'm going to show you the way that I am doing it now. Alright, so the only method I've actually seen people talk about is the spray bottle method, where you have a spray bottle filled with water and then you take a bit of neem oil, use whatever the package calls for. I'm trying to get it to stay without actually tipping over here. Alright, so this is the neem oil that I've been using. I've used different ones in the past. Just get whatever concentrated form of neem oil. The only thing that you're really looking for is that the active ingredient on this should say neem oil, right? There shouldn't be any other like types of pesticide or anything in it, and it should say organic somewhere on here. It does say right there in the corner for organic gardening. So I'm going to take this, and I generally don't do it like to the exact amount, but I just open it up and pour a little bit. The basic instruction is to dilute it. So I'm going to take about a tablespoon or so and just kind of get it to like that yellowish color. Alright, so you basically just give it a couple shakes around, make sure it is mixed properly, and then you're ready to start using it. Alright, so in this method, which is the previous way that I was using, you come and do a section of your plants, and you would essentially just spray it all over your plants and make sure you get like up in everything. I only have one hand because I'm doing it with the camera, but you would essentially just get it up underneath all of the leaves of plants and anything that you are afraid of getting pests on. So you would just spray liberally, and that's pretty much it. So there's a few different reasons why that way doesn't work and why it's not the best way to do it. Number one, because it has the potential to burn your plants, right? If you're spraying an oil, even if it is diluted onto plants, the sun will cook that, all right? The same way that it happens in a frying pan if you add olive oil to some heat. That's what's going to happen. So in order to prevent that, you have to do that, right? You have to do the spray bottle technique only in certain times of the day. You can do it really early in the morning, or you can do it late at night, or after the sun has set at some point in time, but you have to do it when it's not hot outside. And if you live in a climate like I do, where it's hot the majority of the time, then that kind of limits your ability to actually prevent pests on your plants. So in the past, what would happen is I would spray a whole bunch of neem oil as diluted as it was, and I tried to make it as diluted as possible in the past so that it wouldn't burn my plants, but then it becomes way less effective if you're diluting it that much. What would happen is I would spray on my plants 2 or 3 times a week, and I would always do it either early in the morning or in the afternoon. Now, if I forgot, or if something else came up, then I would have to wait until the next day in order to do this. Now, of course, that's super inconvenient, and waiting to the next day to actually spray neem oil on your plants will be a problem if you have a large infestation like I have in the past of aphids or whiteflies or leaf miners. So you don't want to keep waiting if you already have a problem going on in your garden. Now, the other problem with doing it in this way is that whenever it rains, or whenever the sprinklers or drip irrigation or whatever it is goes off, this kind of becomes irrelevant. It becomes null and void because you're spraying it on the leaves of your plants. So then if it rains, it all gets washed out. Or if you have a drip irrigation system like I do, then guess what? You have to redo it again and again and again, and that is no fun. So let's jump into the method that you don't have to worry about the time of day. You don't have to worry about reapplying it tons and tons after it rains or after your drip irrigation system goes off, and it is 10 times easier. Alright, so the method that I've been doing involves a water pail, bucket, whatever it is that you can manually use to water your plants instead of the spray bottle. This is filled up, I think it's like a gallon or so, and then you take that same neem oil, right? So we're still using that same type of neem oil, the concentrated version, and we're going to take that, open it up, and we're going to do basically the same thing. We're going to make that same concentrated dilution, kind of whatever concoction that you want to call it. I'm just putting in a little bit, but whatever amount of water that you have, follow the instructions and try to make sure that you're diluting it properly. All right, so I'm going to take that same mixture, right? And here we have some cherry tomato plants. As you can see, we don't really have any pests or problems on it, but you can still use this method, and I will tell you why you can still use it in just a minute after I finish this. And you are going to take this concoction, right? Kind of shake it up a little bit, just make sure it is mixed well, and then instead of pouring it on the actual leaves of this plant, I'm going to take my little nozzle here and I'm going to pour it at the very base of the plant, just like that. Like, you want to get all the way in the ground near the soil, and you can do this on any type of plant that suffers from any of these pests. I'm going to do it in here in my bean plants. I'm just spraying it, or actually pouring it in the ground, right? It's okay if it gets on the leaves too, but the main part is for this to be absorbed by the roots. That is what you're going for here. So what that does by pouring it directly into the roots is it makes sure that the plant actually is absorbing it from the inside and spreading it out through the leaves, right? It goes in through the roots, up the stalks of the plant and into the leaves, and then if a pest actually bites into those leaves, like they tend to do, then those pests are absorbing that into their bodies and it basically gets rid of all the pests. The difference by spraying it on top is that, yeah, the pests are eating it and then, you know, getting rid of the pest essentially, but what's happening is when it gets washed off, or, you know, what if it didn't get on that specific part of the leaf that the pest ate, or whatever it is. But this way is so much more effective because it's actually inside the whole plant. It's being dispersed into each part of the plant just by default because it gets absorbed through the roots. Now, I'm not saying this is the only way to do it. I used the spray bottle method for years and years. It was definitely much less effective for me. With this method, by using my water can or whatever it is, or even by taking this, just taking the spray head off of it and pouring it like that directly into the roots, this has definitely allowed me to limit the number of times I do it. I'll do this 1 to 2 times a week for the first couple of weeks, and generally I only do it once because I forget to do it the second time, but usually I'll do it once a week for no more than 2 or 3 weeks, and then I don't have any more problems. Before I was doing this, I would see leaf miners and cutworms and so many different types of pests all the times. Now, this type of solution covers a whole variety of pests. The main ones that for me in my garden I've seen this work on is aphids, leaf miners, and whiteflies. It definitely does help to ward off caterpillars as well, and the actual bottle of neem oil says so many other pests as well. It does say it kills eggs, larvae, and adults, and it includes aphids, whiteflies, spider mites, gypsy moths, a whole bunch of different types of things, and it says even powdery mildew listed on here. So not just for pests. Now, I have had so many issues with leaf miners and whiteflies in the past, which is why I started using neem oil, to be honest with you. But since I haven't had any of those problems now, do I still use it? Yeah, I do. I still use this at the beginning, middle, and end of every garden season as a preventative measure. This is not going to kill your plants. Just because the bugs aren't eating it doesn't mean the plants are going to suffer from it. This is a natural chemical, and I don't even want to call it a chemical. It's a natural oil, right, found in nature that is going to be helpful for your plants even if there's no pests involved. So this is good for organic gardening. I garden organically. I don't use any sort of pesticides or non-organic fertilizers in my garden, and this can be used as a preventative measure once your plants are established or even as seedlings. Alright, so that is basically the best way I have found to use neem oil in my garden. So many of you guys have asked every time I mention it, which I do periodically on different garden tours. I'll mention that I do it this way, and then I always get tons of questions. So hopefully that was helpful for you. If you have any other ways that you have found that works, don't forget to drop them in the comments below so we can all benefit from that, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks.